What is going on, everybody? Back at you with another edition of Move the Chains podcast with your host and the man of this hour, Sam McIntyre. Hope we're doing well today on this terrific Tuesday. Lots to get to today. 2 games last night, doubleheader. A little odd that it was happening this late in the season, but hey, like my dad said, I can't complain. I get football all year round. I love it, baby. So the 2 games I watched was Jaguars Bills and Commanders Bengals. And the difference between those 4 teams, it is alarming. So I want to start off first off with the Jaguars Bills. Man, where do I start? Josh Allen, thank you, brother. You got me fantasy points. Thank you. I've been wanting a win all season. Thank you. But I did want to hit on the losing team first. Jacksonville, I went into this season kind of down on them. I picked them 3rd in the division rankings that I did a while ago. I might still be right on that. We'll see with Tennessee. I think, give or take, they could finish 3rd or 4th. It could be flip-flopped, whatever. But last night, to me, it proved that Jacksonville is a long, long way away. And it's crazy to think that because 2 years ago, Trevor Lawrence was balling. Sunshine was balling. They beat the Cowboys. I love it whenever that happens. They beat, they went, obviously, they played the playoff game against the Chargers. Chargers just Brandon Staley'd it away. 27-0. He came back, threw 4 picks in the first half, came back, threw 4 touchdowns. It was phenomenal. And then they lost to the Chiefs, obviously, in a close game up in Arrowhead where Mahomes, I think, was hurt, but gutted it out. So now I'm sitting here 2 years later, and I'm wondering what the flying hell happened. And I got to go, well, I was wrong. And listen, I said this before with Trevor Lawrence. And I watched closely last night when they were down how he would respond. I don't know what it is. I could never play quarterback. I always embody it and I always study it and I see it. And it's so hard to play the position. Obviously, as we know that in sports or in general. I don't think he has it. And I think he's the most hyped up player I've ever seen. I thought Andrew Luck was, but this kid took the cake. And then Caleb, obviously, this past year, but prior to that, it was Andrew Luck and Trevor Lawrence. I just don't know if he's ever going to have that it in him. And I just don't, I could bang on Will Levis, and I've defended the kid, and I'll get to that down the road in a couple days from now. I'll give you my reaction on what I think's going on with them. But I watch Will Levis, and there's this fire, and there's this edge, and this passion, and this pissed off, angry Chucky, like, I need to have this urgency with him. And Trevor, I just feel like, is kind of going through the motions. And there's 3 quarterbacks in this league that have never had to face adversity. Kyler Murray never lost a high school football game in Texas, which I think Texas football is a little overrated. That's a discussion for another day. I'm going to go, Trevor Lawrence, who I just mentioned, I keep forgetting. And then the third guy is Bryce Young. They've never had to face adversity. And this is what I worried about with Trevor, because I never saw him down. He never got beat up, never got his ass beat. He was up all the time. So I got huge question marks. I think there's going to be wholesale changes in Jacksonville eventually down the road, probably soon. I just don't think Trent Baalke, and I don't know any of these GMs, but I've heard people say that he's kind of a dick and kind of an asshole, and his drafts have been piss poor. I'll give you that. He took Trayvon Walker over traits over the finished product Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan. And we all see how that's panned out. Now, Trayvon Walker's had some moments, but hasn't been up to that billing that the number 1 pick status you should have. And then you go to the flip side, they've drafted decent, outside of that mistake that the Trayvon Walker. But this situation reminds me of the Raiders when they took Tyree over the finished Will Anderson product. You're getting all the raw tools, and you got to mold that clay, make it a finished product, and it hasn't really popped yet. I don't know what's going on with Tyree Wilson, but I'll get to that later. So that's what my take on Jacksonville is. They got a lot of work to do. I've heard people say Belichick's name. Listen, man, that's not going to fly. Belichick wants every bit in personnel. And again, I'm telling you, this is why when I watched the Patriots-Jets the other night, I feel for Rob Mayo. Like, what are you supposed to do with that on offense? I mean, you can't do anything. And you keep thinking back, well, this was Bill Belichick, took over personnel 7 years ago, told the scouts, hey, buddy, I got it from here. Go F yourself, get the fuck out of here. So, this, I'm out, man. And Doug Peterson, listen, I defended him for a long time in Philadelphia. That's a tough market, intense. The Jets' stream of anger, it's cold, it's rigid, it's tough, it's intense in Philly. But, and I know Jacksonville's a little dreamier, a little quieter media, kind of like a Green Bay or a Charlotte or one of those kind of medias. Maybe in Atlanta. Even though Atlanta's a big city, they're more Georgia Bulldogs and that sort of thing, and Georgia. But I think it's going to blow up. And I think the owner of Jacksonville is going to have a long talk. And I would have a long look at that team as a whole. You can't blow it up with the quarterback. You can't do that. You gave him the money already. But I think if there's a starting point, you have something there with Trevor. And you got good skill players. This isn't a team devoid of talent. But I had an interesting fact I heard today. If you're looking at the contrast to the Bills and Jags last night, and I'll get to them in a second, I heard this thing today. You have to have 8 to 12 players that are blue chips. And whenever you draft players, and I heard this from an ex-scout, Bucky Brooks, who one of the pods to listen to, he talks about whenever you draft players, you want blue chip players with blue collar mentalities, bring your lunch bill to work kind of guys. And I look at Jacksonville, and they have one guy that's an A. That's a blue chip, no doubt, that Josh Hines Allen. That's it. I mean, I like Trevor. I like Christian Kirk. I like Evan Ingram. I really like Travis Etienne, the running back, who's a stud. His brother's a beast. Saw one clip where he's got his helmet taken off and he's running fresh yards. He's a banger in a bowling ball. But I just think Jacksonville's going to have a long, long way to go. And this season's already lost. I think I'm looking at top 10 pick already. So that was my take last night. Good for the Bills. That place was rocking. I kind of had some doubts about the weather there last night. With the Jaguars being a warm weather team going to that kind of weird climate. And on the flip side of Buffalo, what an impressive win last night. And this is a Bills team now. And I know that I kind of lump these three teams. I've always said this together. You have the Vikings, the Chargers, and the Bills. They've all reminded me of the same. They can't put it all together. They've had the talent. They've had the playmakers. They've had all these great players, and their Hall of Fames of the teams are great. But when I watch the Bills, and it's just they snake bit. And the Chargers, same thing, going back to the Rivers teams. And Dan Fouts, I wasn't born, but you go back and dig history like I do. I'm a football nerd. Eat, sleep, football, repeat. The Vikings have this too. But I don't know with Buffalo. I think this is sustainable to beat Kansas City. Maybe I'm wrong. I know it's early. But this version, and listen, Stephon Diggs, get him out of the room. He reminds me of Randy Moss this generation. A lot of talent, too much cancer for my own take, okay? Last year, good God, he's bitching and moaning. He's not getting the ball. Hey, dude, when the biggest game of your life, you don't make that play. So stop complaining. That's my knock on that, and I'm over it. But they seem like a more balanced offense. Joe Brady and him are clicking. They're 9-1 their last 10 games. They're balling right now. The only loss they had was the Chiefs, obviously at home. So, great win for the Bills last night. This team, with Dalton Kincaid, the way they're running their 12 personnel, which for most people who don't know, is 2 tight end sets, running game, offensive line, mash it. They look great. And James Cook's a beast of a running back, Dalvin Cook's brother. He's a stud. He was great last year. I know he's kind of like a scat back, but now, he's a whole purpose. You can get him on the inside, get him on the outside, rushing on outside zone, Get him on the inside between the tackles, and then obviously you can swing it out in the flat to him like they did against Dallas in that wheel route last year in that 31-10 drubbing in Buffalo. So, great win for the Bills. Jaguars got a lot of work to do, is how I would sum that up. They got a long flight back to Jacksonville. They got to figure something out because they got to get a win. I mean, that's what I would do right now. It's broken. This team has no confidence, no juice. I don't know what's going on. But, again, I said at the time, I wouldn't have given Trevor that money. I would have waited. But it is what it is. I'm not in charge of salary cap. So, the other game I wanted to get to. Commanders-Bengals, Redskins, okay. What a great game last night. What an absolute duel between two Heisman winners, two LSU Tigers, two transfers. It was fantastic last night. And, Jayden Daniels, I said it at the time, he's destined to be a freaking star, baby. Star. He's awesome, phenomenal. I'm worried about the size. He's a little bit light. But that kid, and with that Cliff Kingsbury offense, which nobody talks about this, Johnny Manziel had Cliff Kingsbury in that 2012 year at Texas A&M. And then he had, Kyler Murray. He's had Patrick Mahomes. He's had these kind of guys. And I think what I see with Jayden is you get versions of a little bit of Lamar, a little bit of Kyler with better pocket presence. And this kid last night, and listen, it felt like a 7-on-7 game for me. And the Bengals, I'll go to them in a second. Jesus, good Lord. The Red Sea opened up for this kid. Everything was open. 9 routes, 8s, posts, bang 8s. Everything was open last night. And I got to tell you, this Commanders football team, Dan Quinn's putting the stamp on it. He's got this Dan Campbell kind of vibe I'm feeling in the nation's capital, which, hey, you guys should be happy. You're 2-1. You're in first place in the division. Who would have thought that? Good God, I picked them third in the division this year. I thought, the Eagles be good. Now, the Eagles still great. I would still probably pick them to win the division. But I'm looking at it now and I'm going, okay, well, Commanders could be a wild card team right now. The way they're playing, that defense is kind of balling. They didn't have a lot of sacks last night with Joe Burrow. He was slicing and dicing it up. It was just a classic shootout game, and I loved it. That's why the NFL's king. It always comes down to the last play. It's nuts. But good for Washington. I loved his dad in the stands doing his dance. I'm not a dancer by any means. But I was happy last night for Commanders. Good for them. They're 2-1. Go enjoy the win. And then the Bengals last night. God, man. I love me some Joey Burrow. I love me some Joe Shiesty. Joe Burrow. Crispy. He's baller last night. But I don't know. Cincinnati's got a lot of problems. And their offensive line, from what I watched last night, and that's been a problem for years. I know the year they went to the Super Bowl, they gave up a lot of sacks. I think he got sacked, 70 times in a year? Jesus, I'm surprised his back didn't give out. But last night, I saw a team that I'm not sure what to make of them. The Bengals have a lot of good players, but they let a lot of guys go. And what I can't figure out is, this reminds me of the Cowboys, why the hell have you not gotten your 2 receivers signed? Jamar Chase should have gotten his money and been done. And now this is lingering on, and then he's bitching. They're talking trash. You haven't done anything, Bengals. You're 0-3 for first time since 2019. We all saw that one down. You were, first overall pick and got Joe Burrow. Now, luckily, he landed in your lap, but that's where you're at. And I think that could happen again down the road, this upcoming draft. We'll get to that later. So, I listen, it was a great game last night. Those 2 quarterbacks going at it. I mean, the NFL right now, I'm so excited for this young group of quarterbacks. I really am. Obviously, you got Joe Burrow, Lamar, Herbert, Mahomes, Allen. It's just, and the AFC's got them. And I still think the NFC is kind of closing that gap with the quarterbacks, the elite guys. It's kind of hit and miss with the elites in the NFC. But AFC is stacked. It's a gauntlet. It's loaded. So, yeah, man, I think the Bengals got to get their shit right because I don't know what's going to happen. That division's still weird to me. I know Pittsburgh's 3-0. I'm not buying them. I'm not buying. Okay? I'm buying Baltimore because I trust them more. They've had a quarterback that's been there, done that. I get he hasn't won in the playoffs, but I trust the Ravens right now to finish winning that division. But that's all I wanted to say on here. I hope you guys are doing well on this terrific Tuesday. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, put the word out, and I'll talk to you guys soon.